So today we're going to talk about factoring patterns for, this is kind of the same thing that we did last time, except, anybody see what the difference is? This is very similar to 5.7. But only thing different, well, we still have 1 for x squared, don't we? Anybody see anything different? Yeah. C is now negative. Okay, that's the only difference. Do you think it's going to change a whole bunch? Not much. It's going to be very similar. You know, in order for the last number, the C to be negative, first of all, what do you notice? Well, I want you to think about that as we go into the next example here. So our first example. Question?
No, I think I know what.
Okay, right. Alright, okay, so good. Keep that in mind. Okay, so example 1. Notice this example 1, x squared minus x minus 30 is the example. Notice the last constant term is negative. You see what I mean? So do you think it's going to be very similar like last time where what sort of form? How do you get x squared, by the way? You're going to have, yeah, x times x, right? So do you think it's a good idea to kind of start off with this, right? You have to You have to now think about what goes in here. Isn't that right? And to get the last term, remember, that's how you multiply vertically. Like the first term, you multiply vertically the x's. The last term, you multiply vertically the... so how many ways are there to get negative 30? Now, this time it's negative 30. That's the difference. So think about it. Ratio. What's the easiest way, first of all? Yes?
Well, one of them has to be negative.
Good. That's the only difference, right? Last time, when it was positive, it was both of them were positive and both of them were negative, right? To get positive. Well, in order for the last number to be negative, right? One of them has to be negative. So Elizabeth is correct. So what's the easiest one, Elizabeth? How do you get negative 30? So I have negative 30. What? Oh, is that the easiest one though? Let's start with the easiest possible way. Let's do this in order, right? What's the easiest way to get negative 30? 1 and 30. One of them has to be negative, so you could have 1 and negative 30 or what? Negative 1 and 30. So I'm going to write those together. This is what you're thinking in your head, right? Do you see the similarity? Last time it was positive, positive, negative, negative. This time, one of them has to be positive, the other has to be negative. Thomas, can you give me another one? That's not only one way to get negative 30, right? What other ways could we? What's next? 1 goes into 30. What else goes in?
15 times negative 2.
Sure. Let's do 2 and 15 though. Okay, so you could have 2 and negative 15, or you could have
Negative 2.
exactly right. You see how I'm doing this in order? You know, I did 1 and 2, and do you think I'm going to start with 3 now? Okay, John, 3 and what?
3 and 10.
Yeah, but 3 and 10 or 3 and negative 10? Yeah, 3 and negative 10. If I could have 3 and negative 10, what else could I have? Yeah.
Negative 3.
Negative 3 and positive 10. You see what I'm talking about? So if you get one, you could get the other really easily. Are there any others? Yeah?
6 or negative 6 and 5.
Yeah, you should start with, okay, 3 goes in. Does 4 go into 30? No. What about 5? 5 and negative 6. And of course, if you could have 5 and negative 6, you could also have negative 6 and negative 5 and 6, right? There you are. So now at this point, it's just a multiple choice, right? It's like multiple choice. You just choose which one that goes in. Okay. Anybody see what we could use here? Ali, do you see which one I could use? You think I should use 1 and negative 30? Because if I plug in 1 and negative 30, yeah, I do get negative 30 here. But look at my middle term. Remember how you get middle term? You know, when we do this, we get the middle term. We want the middle term to be negative 1, x. Right? 5 and negative 6 is a good choice, I think. Do you see how, Ali, you choose the right answer, right? Because remember that arrow? That's why I did it vertically, right? Like this, remember? I'm kind of proud of this because I kind of figured this myself. Not too many of books, even books. The books, they do it kind of horizontally. I kind of like it vertically because, you can see the middle terms really easily. You see? Like, you do the x. Because when you do the vertical ones, right, you get the first term and the last term, right? But to get the middle term, you just, that's that cross that gives you, yeah. Well, it's not called cross multiplying, But you do that cross, you get the middle term. It's easier to see. You see how, Ali, it's not 1 and negative 30, it's 5 and negative 6, right? Because after all, we want the difference to be negative 1, right? Because that's negative 1x. Good. Do you all agree, guys?
Yes.
Is this easy? Okay, so let's check. Because you should always check, right? So when we do, what's x times x? When we do this vertically, x times x, that gives you the first term. X times x squared, is that what we get? Last term, 5 times negative 6, do we get negative 30? Now all we have to check is the middle term. What's x times negative 6, class? Negative 6x plus, what's 5 times x? Do we get negative 1x in the middle? Yeah, all checks, and there's the answer. X plus 5 times x minus 6. Do you see how it's very similar to the last one, except now we have positive and negative, right? Or negative and positive. That's your choice there. Questions? Are we good? May I move on? Go ahead. Why don't you try example 2 if there are any questions? You should be able to do this without much problem. Go ahead. I'll give you some time. Does anybody need more time? No? Okay. So first of all, I saw a lot of people actually start off with this. So that's really good, right? Did you all start with this, right? Only way to get w squared is w times w, right? Again, this is really simple because this is 1w squared, right? Only way to get that is. Now, for negative 35, somebody give me the easiest way to get negative 35. Yes, sir. Let's start with a positive number. 1 and? If I could have 1 and negative 35, what else could I have? Now, if I could have 1 and negative 35, I could have also negative 1 and 35. Does that make sense? That's one of them. Are there any other? Christine, can you tell me another one? Are there any other factors? 5 and negative 7. So before we get to 5, are there any? Is that the only one that comes? Does 2 go into 35? No. Does 3 go into 35? Does 4? No. 5. Okay. 5 and?
Negative 7.
Yeah, 5 and negative 7. If I could have 5 and negative 7, what else could I have? Negative 5 and 7. Do you see that, Almond? Okay, Almond, were you able to choose the right one? Which one? So now it's multiple choice, right? Are there any other factors that you can multiply two numbers to get negative 35? No, there aren't any. So which one should I choose?
W plus 5 and W plus negative 7.
That's right. So I put 5 here, and let me move this down for a second. So I put 5 and negative 7. Would you all agree?
Yep.
Could I put negative 7 and 5? Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. So we should check. What's W times W, class? W squared. That's good. So what about 5 times negative 7? Of course, it's negative 35. We want negative 35. But is that what we need to check? We gotta check the middle term, right? So when I do, what's 5 times negative 7? Negative. No. What's W times negative 7? Negative 7. What's 5 times W? 5W. Does that give me negative 2W?
Yes.
Which is what we wanted. Do we get 3 checks?
Yes.
Do we have the right answer?
Yes.
What's the answer, John?
W plus 5 and W minus 7.
What do we do with those two? We should be multiply. We're factoring, aren't we? We're factoring, so we multiply them. There you go. It's in the box there. Do you get the idea? Any question? No questions? So there you go. Right there. So example 3, try this one yourself. Factor this. Go ahead, everybody try. You should be able to do this without much problem now. Okay, so did you all start off with this? You're gonna have to have p's in right here, okay? So how many ways are there to get negative 33 when you multiply two integers? Raise your hand. There are 2. Matthew, which one? Give me the easiest one. Negative 133 or? 1 and negative 33. Now this time, I'm just going to write 1 and 33 because I know one of them has to be negative. You know, I don't want to write it again. Is that okay, guys? Yeah. So if you don't feel comfortable doing it, just write the whole thing out. But at this point, now I know that one of them has to be negative. I don't want to write the same one again. You know what I mean? I just have to keep in mind that one of them has to be negative. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, and also what else could I have? Yeah. 3 and 11. Again, I'm not going to write 3 and negative 3, 11, and 11. You know what I mean? I'm not going to write 3, negative 11, and then negative 3, 11. You know? Because in my head, I know one of them has to be negative. I just have to choose. Thomas, do you see which one I need to choose here? By the way, are there any other possibility?
No.
No. Okay. So it's like multiple choice now. Which one do I choose? Thomas?
Well, 33 and 1.
33 and 1. You're right, because I want it to be negative 32. So now, I don't write 33 and 1, right?
You write negative 33.
Yeah, I need to choose the, negative 33 and positive 1. Would you all agree, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah? Because, right? I need to get negative 32p for my linear term, right? The middle term, right? So, do you think we should check? Of course. What's p times p?
P squared.
P squared. Okay. And what's 33, negative 33 times 1? Negative 33, which is what we wanted. Now, we have to check p times 1, which is
P.
p. What about negative 33 times p? Yeah, does that give me negative 32? Yeah, there's my check. Any question? Does that make sense? Okay, now, what sort of mistake do you think people make on these type of questions? I see this a lot. Yeah, 1, 2 people see it. They choose the right number. Madeline, what do you think? Yeah, they put the negative on the wrong one. Instead of negative 33 and 1, they put positive 33 and negative 1. That would not give you negative 32p, would it? Right? So do you think it's a good idea to check always, right? See if you got it? Yeah, that's a simple mistake that people make. But you know that it's got to be negative 32, so one of them has to be bigger. You know, the negative has to be more. You get the idea? Any question? May I give you example 4? All right, let's go to example 4. Example 4 is a little bit different, not too much. Go ahead and try example 4. Does anybody see what the difference is between example 4 and the rest of the examples with Anais? Now we have 2 variables. You have variables at the end also, right? So keep that in mind. Yeah, it's not that hard. It's the same thing. It's just you got to remember. Otherwise, you're not gonna do it right. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different. Go ahead, everybody try. So how many people started off with this format? Raise your hand. Do you think it's a good idea? If you didn't, though, do you think it's a good idea to do this? Yeah, you need to have the x and x right here, and you need to have the y's, right? Otherwise, you're not gonna get y squared. You see what I mean? Now you just look at negative 18 and look at which numbers gives you negative 18. Chancellor, give me one of them. So 1 and 18. Of course, one of them has to be negative, right? So I'm not gonna write all that out. You know what I mean? I could have 1 and 18, but one of them has to be negative. What others? Yeah. 2 and 9. Are there any others? Yeah. 3 and 6. Don't forget that one, right? Because 3 goes into 18, right? Okay. How do we know 3 goes into 18? John? Yeah, a plus, you add the digits, and it's 9, so 3 goes into 9, so you know it goes in. Are there any others? Does 4 go in? No. Does 5 go in? No. Then 6 goes in, but then we already have it right here. We don't need to worry about it. Okay, so now it's a multiple choice. Which one should we choose? I mean, remember that one of these factor has to be negative, right? Otherwise, you're not going to get negative 18. Ali, can you think of one? You think it's 3 and negative 6? Okay. If I put 3 and negative 6, right? Think about it. Let's plug in 3 and negative 6. That's actually good. I like that. Okay. Now, Ali, as you check, look at how you get the middle term, right? We want the middle term to be positive 3 xy. Isn't that right, Ali? So if I do it as 3 and negative 6, when I do this cross like this, do I get positive 3 xy? No. So guess what I have to do now? Yeah, if I choose now negative 3 and positive 6, that will get you positive 3 xy. Does that make sense? That's why we need to do this, right? Check. Does that make sense? Andrew, do you get that? So Andrew, what do I get when I do x times x? Let's check them.
X squared.
What about this now? X times negative 6y is? I mean, positive 6y is?
6x.
6,
X.
no. X times 6y is?
Oh.
6
6x.
xy. We need xy, remember?
Oh, 6xy.
Y, 6xy, you see. What about this one? Negative 3y times x. You get?
Negative 3xy.
Xy. And of course, when I multiply the vertically like this, when I multiply these vertically, yeah, I get?
Negative 18.
Yeah, negative 18. Negative 18 what? Negative 18 y
Y squared.
square. We need to, isn't that what we needed? Right? Okay, so is that what we need? Do we get positive 3xy when we add them together? Yes. So there's your answer. Does that make sense? Guess what? A lot of people mess up on this kind of question. Yeah. Yeah, they could switch these around. Oh, also they forget the variable y at the end, right? So if you have variable at the end, y squared, you need to have y's here, right? Okay, pretty straightforward. Any questions? All right, go ahead and if you could do example 4, you should be able to do this without any problem. M squared minus 34mn minus 72n squared, factor it. Go ahead, everybody try. It's example 5a, by the way. So that means there's another one, right? I don't know why I did it that way. Anyway, go ahead, try it.
It means there's 282.
Yeah, I could have just called it. I think I'm gonna just call it examples. Anyway, go ahead, everybody try. So, I saw a lot of you started off with this format. That's really good, okay? Because you know you need m's here and n's here, right? To get n squared at the end and m, right? Now we just have to look at the factors of 72.